Hey, what is up, Cowboys Nation? And welcome back after a very, very long break for Mass and I. But we now have a new look. We have a new show, and welcome to the premiere of Starstruck with Cam and Mass. You know, my good host over there, Massey. And then we are so honored to have Bryan Broaddus hanging with us on our first show. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just exciting, and welcome back to football season. It's been an interesting off season for us all.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let me first off say I'm jealous as a member of my own podcast, Love of the Star, for your opening. We need to steal your dramatic opening.
Right?
Like Bobby and I are just we're very weak on our opening, and so I'm honored to be on with you guys. I'm impressed with your opening, and yes, if you see it on Love of the Star when we record the next time, that's where we stole it from.
Well, I made it. I made it myself, and
There you go.
that's my little photography skills coming in. So I'd be more than happy to help you guys out with one.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate that.
yeah. So big week, first week, Giants. We have not gotten to see any of our starters on the field,
So weird.
and
Yeah.
that's a conversation itself. Are they going to go out there and be rusty and not used to being hit, or did we save ourselves from some of those injuries that could have happened? To
Yeah,
be
that's
determined.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. There's a couple of different ways to play this. And as the former personnel guy, I remember I was a part of some teams that played in the Hall of Fame games. So I had to live through 5 games in a preseason, 5 games that didn't mean anything other than evaluation of my team. And there are some coaches that will play it in a way where, okay, if we want to see our starters for a series or 2 and on. We saw a team last night with the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, who I with in a couple of spots. Andy and I were neighbors in Green Bay, worked together. Andy's a wonderful human being, really good friend of mine. And Andy always took the approach of, I want to play these preseason games. I want to give it opportunity for my guys to play. Well, last night, say what you want. Detroit, I'm sure Detroit played some of their starters too during the preseason. I'm not going to act like I knew what Detroit was doing, but I know what Andy was doing at Kansas City. So, it's kind of a give and take thing because, like I said, as a personnel guy, I tell these coaches I can't replace these guys if you lose. I remember there was a time when, and this goes way back, I was talking with some guys at the New York Giants about this, and they lost Jason Sehorn. He was a corner. Jason Sehorn was a corner from USC, starter for the Giants. In a preseason game, he's returning kicks, and he blows out his knee. And now my starting corner is no longer available because all of a sudden I said, well, I'm going to see Jason Sehorn return a kick. And maybe that's that kind of playing 5 games and knowing damn good and well that I can't replace guys that I lose. It's bad enough you lost Overshone, who I felt like there were packages that they were going to create for him. There were going to be him playing, in place maybe of a Leighton Vander Esch and allowing Leighton Vander Esch to be an edge player or to allow Clark to do something different or pair them up with him and Curse, and they lose him in that game. But yeah, somebody has to play. But but here's a guy that now, can you make up, can you supplement your packages with somebody else? I don't think you can. I think the way that kid played, the way, 6 plays in that last game, the game he got hurt, he had 3 tackles in 6 plays. That's the kind of, but I'm not trying to be scaredy cat guy, but I just know when I sat in those personnel meetings and the coaches were like, yeah, we want to see this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to show you my emergency board right now. And there's nobody on my emergency board that can replace somebody that you might lose. Yeah. Okay, there's some players we can work around. There's others we can't. And I'm to the point where, like, And maybe there's people out there that's saying, well, hell, Bryan, Tyler Smith got hurt in a practice the other day. Tyron Smith rolled his ankle in a practice the other day. I mean, you can't be scared. And I'm going to say, yeah, you can be scared, because if something major happens, I can't replace Overshown for something that we had a plan for, a specific plan for how to play with this guy. Yeah. And now he's no longer with us. So it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
I think it's kind of a crapshoot, like you're saying. Like I remember back in 2021, Dak is coming off of injury, and people are saying, "Hey, we need to see him in the preseason game. He hasn't played in forever, And he comes back, first action, no preseason, and lights Tampa Bay up. No, we don't win the game, but he lit Tampa Bay's defense up. Then last year, he didn't play in the preseason, and he didn't play as well against Tampa in the opener. Then he gets injured in the game. So, like, either way, he did both ways without playing in the preseason game. So I really don't think some players, it might matter more. But when you have players, I think at the level of Dak Prescott and stuff like that, it really doesn't matter.
See, the questions I had, Mass, about that was, I'm okay with playing players, especially a quarterback, if do I have all my offensive linemen? Who are my offensive linemen? And Cowboys were dealing with, I'm sure you guys were doing shows and having conversations about what's Zach Martin going to do? When's Terrence Steele going to practice? Do you really want to expose Tyron Smith? Oh, wait a minute. Broaddus just got a little bit of an ankle thing he's dealing with right now. If you told me my 5 guys that were going to line up and play against the Giants this weekend were going to be in front of him for the 1 or 2 series that you want to play, by all means, let's go. I mean, that's fine. But nobody can assure me of that. All the things I just went through, trying to get Steele back in condition, trying to get him ready. Zach Martin, he's not in California, he's in Dallas. There's just so many things that were going on with this offensive line. I'm not going to expose my quarterback to that. They don't hit you in practice. They hit you in those preseason games.
Yeah.
They do. They hit you in those preseason games.
And it's a lot of guys trying to make the team, trying to impress.
I mean, look at one of the penalties that Sam Williams got in I'm going to say it might have been the Vegas game. He went around the corner and went low into the quarterback's legs. Went into and now he gets a penalty. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, okay, there's some guy like Sam Williams who's super aggressive, that's trying to make a play, low shoulder runs. Here he goes. Oh, wait, he stumbles. Now he's in the back of Dak's legs, or now he's in the back of Dak's ankle, and then we're all sitting there looking at each other. I was calling the game with Brad Sham in Seattle in 2016 at the field there. What's it now? London. What's it called there, Cam? What's our Seattle stadium? Lumen Field. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we're at Lumen Field. But we're calling the game, and Romo gets hurt in the game, and Brad and I couldn't even do the broadcast. We couldn't even. We're like, Brad's trying to do the play by play, and I'm watching Christy Scales like try and get information down there, like how bad is Romo hurt. So it's, everybody's different about playing these players. And you know what? There's probably going to be rust no matter what. I watched a ton of college football, except Cam's, her Huskies looked like they didn't have any rust. But,
we're good.
but that's part of, I think every team is going to go through that. But I'm okay with the way the Cowboys practiced against themselves. I don't think there was a defense, because the practices I saw, it didn't matter. It wasn't just Micah Parsons. It was Sam Williams. It was everybody was kind of given. There was pressure everywhere, but they weren't hitting Dak. It was a controlled situation, and I'm totally that's just me, because again, I cannot replace guys. I just can't. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Speaking of that, and we might as well talk about the elephant in the room, this offensive line, especially having to meet up against this defensive line that we're meeting up this
left
weekend
side.
is one of the absolutely best, I think, in the league. And I can say that I have much more confidence with what the right side is and the way they gel and they move together versus what the left side is now with injuries and everything. Do you feel that the move is to actually move Tyler Smith outside if he's good to go and Tyron isn't, and then bring up Bass into that spot? And how do
Yeah.
you compensate with that? Now, my other part of the question is with the pass pro, with who's going to take on that role of Zeke out of the running back or the tight ends that we had? And that's how I feel that we're going to have to compensate for any weakness we have on the left side.
No, it's a good question because just the people I talked to late in the day here over with the Cowboys, they feel good about Tyron Smith playing. That the report early was the report early was it was a minor injury. The one that you're going to have to worry about is Tyler Smith. That's the one you're going to have to. And I know he's listed as doubtful on the injury report. You know, they could upgrade if they feel like that he can, but that was the one. The one early in the week was Sam Williams. That was the one when I was at the Star doing work with the break that I got to see Sam a little bit, and it didn't look good early. That's why I kind of like, man, I don't know about this pushing off in the turf toe. But your question was about the offensive line, and it's going to be Adoga. It is who it's going to be. I mean, if Tyler Smith doesn't go, it's going to be Tyron Smith, Adoga, Broaddus, Martin, and Steele. That's going to be who's going to. And we had this conversation on the break today, and it was, how do you feel? And I'm no longer a scout there. They don't care about my opinion. Last time they cared about my opinion was 2005. You know, I mean, I piss a lot of people off there about stuff I say, and that's okay. But, you know, I would feel better about Adoga if I, in those practices, had seen him have some success. Mm-hmm. You know, he was playing tackle. He wasn't good. He didn't move well. He wasn't handling he wasn't handling off the edge. The lateral slide, the agility, everything that you watched him practice, it just wasn't good. It just didn't look quick. And now you're putting him inside, which everybody feels like is his natural position, that he should be a guard. Okay, fine. The one thing that I know about TJ Bass, and I know he's a rookie, and, you know, when we started playing these preseason games, he was a guy that was kind of like, okay, second half guy. And then the next thing you know, it's like, wait a minute, now he's getting reps with the ones. They're putting him in with the ones. And I'm like going, wait a minute, this guy, he's showing the ability he's blocking, he's not giving up pressure, he's a big, sturdy guy. You know, you're seeing that and you're like, all right, maybe they've kind of figured out this guy. He's the word a gamer. You know, he's a gamer. You put him in there, he's a gamer. And I saw more positivity of him playing against first and second, you know, defensive linemen in these opponents. And then when he got the opportunity to go against the Cowboys inside, you know, he was showing it wasn't perfect all the time. Him and Awesome Richards, I felt like both of those guys showed really some, you know, going up in a lot of ways. But Adoga, I can't say that about. I just can't say that about Adoga that made me feel like that, you know, it's going to be a little tough maybe for him.
Yeah, I'm a big USC fan, so I watched Adoga from college and everything like that.
Sure.
Like I know about him, and I never was like a huge like, hey, you know, this is the guy or anything like that. When we signed him, I was like, okay, it's a decent depth piece and stuff.
Bridge player, yeah,
exactly. I've been more impressed with Bass in the preseason and camp that I've seen, and I agree with you what you're saying, and I'm surprised that, you know, that would be their guy to look at instead of Bass. And maybe they're like, hey, look at Bass as this rookie, you know, like we maybe not throw him in week one right away. Maybe that's their thinking. Let's get the experienced guy out and see what he can do. I don't know, but that's probably not the direction I would go in. But again, I'm not there. I'm not making the calls, you know.
No, and none of us are. We're all talking about it on a podcast and trying to like, you know, and that's okay. That, you know, but it's their responsibility that they feel like that they can go in this game with Adoga playing at left guard and they'll be fine. And but I also remind you of the days of Chaz Green. You know when.
Ooh, don't.
Well, but I'm not. I'm just saying.
I'm kidding.
But I'm just saying that the eye test will take. Now Chaz Green the week before, I guess it was the San Francisco. In that game, he played well, and then the Atlanta game, it was an absolute disaster. But you're sitting there, and they could be wrong too. They could be. It took Lyle Collins being poor off and on the field for them to play Terrence Steele. If you talk to people in the organization, especially Joe Philbin when he was a coach, Joe Philbin will tell you, man, kid was first in, first out, or excuse me, first in, last out. Wants to learn, ask questions. We had Zach Martin on the Zach Martin show last week on 105.3 The Fan, actually yesterday. And Zach couldn't say enough nice things about, and I know it's his teammate, but there's a difference when those two get together and play. So to me, this is where you shouldn't be afraid to put Terrence Steele out there one time. You shouldn't be afraid to try TJ Bass if in fact Adoga doesn't deliver what he needs to deliver.
Yeah, and on the second part of Cam's question, with Zeke gone, do you think Pollard and Dowdle can step up into that blocking role, or is that why they're keeping a guy like a Hunter around and say, "Hey,
Hunter Lipke,
he'll be our back that's going to block."
Yeah, the thing about it is Malik Davis is on the practice squad now because he couldn't block. Malik Davis might be a better player than Rico Dowdle, but the fact of the matter is now Rico Dowdle as the wing on the punt team got a punt block. That's one-on-one, that's in space, that's blocking. But the thing about Rico Dowdle is they love his toughness. They love his ability to run the football. They love the ability he could catch the ball pretty well. You can't ask Deuce Vaughn to do this. Deuce Vaughn will give you.
It's like asking me to do it.
Well, Deuce Vaughn will give you everything he has. Yeah. The problem is they've tried him at personal protector on the punt team. The guy up back blocking there. And he just couldn't handle it. He didn't have to handle that at Kansas State. Yeah. All they did was hand him the football. He didn't have to play special teams. He didn't have to do anything. He was a star at Kansas State. So him having to do some of these things, they obviously feel like that Rico Dowdle can't handle the special team stuff that Pollard's not going to do, and also that Deuce Vaughn's not going to do. But I will be interesting to see what the situation is with Hunter Lipke. But I do remember a game last year, and I was sitting in the press box, and I can't remember the team that Dallas was playing. But they had Tony Pollard on the goal line, and they ran the ball 3 straight times with him, and they didn't get a yard. He didn't get a yard. And then on 4th down, McCarthy decides to go for it, and they brought in Zeke, and Zeke got it in.
Got it. Yep, I remember that, yeah.
And I can't remember the game, but I just remember that from where we're sitting in the press box, they're coming at us. And it was 3 straight times. And I'm not saying that Pollard is weak or can't do it, but when you get in that shoe-to-shoe tight box, there's going to be some, can he find a way? The one thing about Ezekiel Elliott, he was always finishing forward. Yeah. Always finishing forward. And whether it was 1 yard forward, 2 yards forward, 7 yards forward. That's where he was always finishing. So, yeah, they're going to have to figure out, can Pollard be that guy that is able to finish when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. We might, guys, see some more of Dak Prescott running quarterback sneaks is what we honestly might see. We might see Dak actually more quarterback sneaks. Now, again, you risk your quarterback taking a shot in the ribs, on the shoulder, in the head, all kinds of things.
Because he'll lower his shoulder.
He will lower his shoulder to try and get the first down. Yeah. So, that's, you got to be careful of that. But, that's why you play.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's I kind of see, like, and I know it's hard direct comparison, but I see a lot of qualities with Hunter and John Kuhn in in Green Bay and Mike McCarthy, you'd love to use them in those short yardage on that goal
Right.
line.
Right.
So I'm wondering if he can kind of play that role and fill that.
See, the things I remember about John Kuhn and Kyle Juszczyk and these guys and Ricard at the Ravens, I've seen those dudes block. I've seen those dudes go in there and explode on a linebacker and dig them out of the hole, or hit it really, offset eye and then just fire to the outside and take out an end or take out a linebacker. I haven't seen Hunter Lipke do that. I haven't seen to the point where I'm like, I'm thinking, oh, Daryl Johnston, go dig these guys out. And that's what makes Kuhn and Juszczyk and Ricard and those guys so special. Is that they go in there square and they hit and they dig guys out. I mean, they're like battering a Rams. And I don't know, when I watched Hunter Lipke play at North Dakota State, and the whole state of North Dakota hates me now, which, take a number, just go ahead and take a number. California hates me for a lot of things too. But I haven't seen Hunter Lipke. I've seen him run really, really tough. I've seen him catch the ball, but I haven't seen him be that guy that's going to go dig guys out. And maybe that's what they're saving him for, to put him, offset and let him just attack the line of scrimmage. Maybe they're not showing their hand on that right now, and maybe that's what Hunter Lipke is going to do. But I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it since he's been with the team.
Okay, Cam, if it's okay, I want to play this game with Bryan now. I got this from Connor Livesay from Twitter.
Okay,
and just want to. I thought it was pretty cool, so I wanted to throw these out for you. And I would just.
Do I have to spell?
No, you just gotta just name the player.
Just
name the player. Answer the question.
Okay.
So for this season, name your breakout guy for the Cowboys.
Oh, wow. How about Damone Clark? Ooh. I think Damone Clark, when you look at Damone Clark, I think Damone Clark last year, there was some flashes of him being really into it and good, and then he would play next to Anthony Barr, and he didn't look like he knew what he was doing. And I think that had a little bit to do with Leighton Vander Esch helps him a ton. And I think you're seeing a lot more confident player. I think you're going to see some times where Leighton's not on the field and Clark is that guy. So I could see him being a guy, downhill player, confident player, might even see him create some turnovers, but I like Damone Clark as that kind of that breakout guy.
Okay. Comeback kid.
Wow. It could, the obvious one would be Michael Gallup. And talking to Michael Gallup is that he struggled so much off the field with some things. There's some things that he's not telling folks. And I was hearing some whispers. And a matter of fact, had a chance to interview him for 105.3 The Fan in Oxnard. And I looked at him, I said, how excited are you to put things behind you? Not just on the field, but off the field. And he goes, man, you don't know. And I'm like, but he looked at me like, you don't know, but you do know. And I was hearing some things that he was dealing with. And so I kind of feel like that he will be a guy that, if they can get him going, and he's such a talented player. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've never seen a man that long, that rangy with his body that plays in such a small little area and so good at getting feet down and making himself small so he can catch balls. But I could feel like that Gallup could be that guy that he could get back to what we saw him for some previous years.
Okay. Next one is kind of similar to breakout guy, but it's a step above. Who is going to rise to a star level? If anybody.
Sam Williams.
Oh.
Sam Williams. The thing that scares me about Sam Williams is if you look at the number of snaps he played, he had it was almost like he was David Irving a little bit. Mm. And remember David Irving would play 23 snaps and he'd have 2 sacks, a forced fumble. I think Sam Williams is kind of the same guy. I think that he is that you're going to see him, the more he plays, the more tackles for loss he's going to get. Now, the thing you worry about Sam is he's got to kind of hold it all together because he can get penalties. the one thing I was asked, I said this on the break with Derek and Ambar and Patrick Walker. And Derek asked the question, what can make this defense go from good to elite? And I said, third down penalties when they're getting off the field. How many times have we seen this team get a third down penalty for illegal contact, defensive holding, hands to the face, personal foul, roughing the passer, something that they don't have to get, but they get off the field. It's 3rd and 7, they get an incompletion or they get a stop off the field, but boom, penalty. That's the thing. And I think Sam is involved in a lot of that. Sam is kind of Sam plays to the echo of the whistle is what he does. And I think, but he's the one guy with his ability that's got a shot. Deron Bland's another one too that I think could be an absolute star. He had he had the interceptions last year, but when you start to talk about him down in, down out, and what he does out of that nickel, I think it's super impressive.
I agree with that one.
Have you tell me when you don't agree on one? You guys need to tell me your guys too. That way I can learn along the way.
Yeah,
it's like a one-way street here right now. I'm not learning anything. Yeah.
My breakout guy was Jalen Tolbert.
Okay.
Comeback kid was Tony Pollard just because of the ankle and coming back from the ankle.
Okay.
I don't know if that's
like
qualified. Rising star, Jake Ferguson. I think.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Jake Ferguson is going to have a really good year.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a huge
huge
Ferguson fan.
Okay, good for you. There you go.
Yeah. And so the next one is Don't Forget About Me.
Might be Tyron Smith.
Ooh.
Wow.
Because
a lot of people are writing him off.
They write him off. And maybe somehow, some way, I don't think Tyron Smith is as good as Tyron Smith was 5 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago. But I know the one thing about Tyron Smith is I think it's important to him. I think he'll battle. I think he wants to. I think Tyron Smith knows he's about to the end. And I don't think he wants to go out as a guy. Okay, this is going to be probably a bad example for Cowboy fans, and please don't roast me for this one. But I was on the staff when Emmitt Smith was finishing up. And Emmitt Smith, you knew, was going to be a Hall of Fame player. And Emmitt Smith, we didn't get enough. Our offensive line wasn't good enough. We just weren't good enough. We didn't block. He had the doo-doo and diamonds talk he gave one time. He says, I'm a diamond among all the doo-doo, and he wasn't wrong. I mean, we didn't do a good enough job for him. But the thing I remember about Emmitt Smith was he started slipping. It started to, you could tell there wasn't those 6-7 yard just runs. It was 2 and 3 and a lot of kind of turning sideways in the hole. And I don't think Tyron Smith, I don't want to remember Tyron Smith like that. I don't want to remember Tyron Smith but maybe it's Don't Forget About Me, because for one more season, I could ratchet this thing up and give you some quality work out there on that left tackle. Who do you guys got?
Cam?
Well, I didn't know I was having to answer them, so
off
the
come
top
on.
of my head, goodness.
I'll go.
Yeah, you go. Yeah,
I did Izzy, because I think that he played amazing at the end of the year, and he played really well in the playoffs. And I think that with everybody coming back, and Jordan Lewis coming back, and
I think Jordan Lewis could be this guy though too.
Yeah,
I think
that's very true.
Because there's things about, I will say this about Izzy, and I like what you said, but man, I was expecting a lot more from Izzy in some of the practices and things, and I was like going, man, he doesn't look like the same player. He just and maybe he had some injury things going on. He was trying to play through and all that. But the length where he could play inside, outside, at safety. Yeah, Don't Forget About Me, guy. Yeah. But I see what you did there. I don't have a problem with that one.
Yeah.
Cam, you think of somebody?
Yeah, and he has flashes, and then there's times he doesn't. But it's Dante Fowler.
Yeah.
Yeah. He and DQ have got that bond, and they've got that going. And there are times that he's that guy. And then there's that time, like Bryan said earlier, he's the guy that got the penalty on the third down.
Yeah.
And now we're on a first down situation again. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, it's funny. I was asking Will McClay because I was talking to him in the final cut, and I asked him about Isaiah Land, and I said I got Land on my 53, and then he goes, oh, that's good. And then I called him back later. And I go, hey, did you lose anybody? He goes, yeah, we lost Land. And I kind of gave it the damn it. And he goes, Bryan, we got rushers. We've got rushers. We've got guys. And I said, but I like your rushers, but I like Land.
Yeah.
He goes, Bryan, we got rushers. And that's how he left it at. So
that's fair.
he's counting on Armstrong and Williams, and maybe a guy don't forget me is Armstrong. Maybe that's he had a
good year,
productive games last year. Maybe he's a don't forget me guy.
Yeah. Okay, so needs to rebound.
Needs to rebound. Whoa.
See, this is where I went Michael Gallup.
Okay. Man, that's okay. Maybe this is tough. If I throw Peyton Hendershot out there, is that a because I kind of felt like that he showed something, then didn't show something, and then in training camp kind of wasn't showing something. I need Peyton Hendershot to be okay, you're what I saw at the beginning of last year. You're kind of the guy that I thought, man, you talk to people over in the organization like Lunda Wells and those guys, the tight ends coach. There was some people that thought that Hendershot was better than Ferguson. They're like, well, hey, Bryan, don't forget Hendershot. Don't forget Hendershot. I'm like, okay. And then in this training camp, it wasn't as good. But I kind of feel like in my mind, maybe he needs to. I'll tell you another guy that might need to rebound, depending on if he plays or not. Is Gallimore? Because I'll tell you what. I'll tell you the thing about the thing with Neville Gallimore. I feel like that he got saved. Okay, he reduced his salary.
I had him. Yeah, I didn't have him on the.
Oh no, I didn't have him on my 53 because him and Bohanna I both had off because I wasn't going to put anybody in front of Mozzie Smith. I was not going to give these coaches a reason to say, well, we're trying to develop Mozzie here, and he's trying to get his work in. And he's trying. No, if you put people in front of Mozzie, that gives coaches reasons to not play Mozzie. So I was like, fine, Gallimore, Bohanna, even though Bohanna played better, it's like, it's a shame that the light came on for Bohanna like way too late. And so, but that's Gallimore, he reduced his contract, he gave him a little break on his contract, but also too, Sharif Floyd, who's one of the new defensive line coaches, took a liking to him. I think he got saved. I think personally, again, this is not anything that I'm, not talking to anybody.
Not breaking news, yeah.
I'm not breaking news here, but I'm telling you, Sharif Floyd likes him a lot, and I wonder if he got saved because of Sharif Floyd. That's that, and I think he's one of those guys that, I wonder if he's player 51, 52, or 53 on the roster. That's why I wonder if he's, okay, we're going to give you a chance, because he was in the doghouse last year. When Brad and I again were doing games in the fourth quarter, he's resetting the lineup and Neville Gallimore's in there, and I'm going, man, that's kind of late for a veteran guy to be playing in a preseason game with 8 minutes to go.
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
So maybe for the fact that he's on this roster, maybe he needs to have a little bit of a bounce back that way.
Cam, do you have a bounce back?
Okay, so I'm going to use Bryan's disclaimer, and Cowboys Nation, please do not come after me. Don't kill me. Don't get me for this.
It doesn't matter. You say that and they still come
right.
after it.
Exactly.
And it's usually somebody with an egg and has a bunch of letters behind the egg.
Yeah, Mr. Bunch of numbers.
Yeah, bunch of numbers.
Yeah.
So mine, I might have looked at it a little bit differently as the bounce back thing, but I don't expect him to be quite at the level of interceptions he was the year before. But Diggs. And he has.
I thought you were going to say Dak.
No. Actually, I mean, that's kind of a given one too. No, mine's Diggs because, the year before he had all the interceptions. Last year, they weren't throwing towards him.
Right.
Well, guess what? They're going to have to throw at him because of Gilly being out there.
Right.
And so I need to see tackles being complete. Because we're not very good at completing tackles. I need to be smart choices. And, I think it's his opportunity to show us that he is that guy, that that contract is for real.
Yeah.
And that 1 year it wasn't a fluke at this point.
Yeah, he's super competitive. And I think I wish he would have had that interception. I can understand the ball in San Francisco going through the traffic and him not seeing it. But when it hit him right in the 7, that could have completely changed the game. I mean, you're right about, I think the Giants are going to be a left-handed team in this game coming up. I think they're going to test whoever the right end is for the Cowboys. And I think they're going to test Diggs, and they're going to try and run at him. And they're going to ask him, are you going to be willing to step up and handle Saquon Barkley coming at you downhill on the edge?
Right.
So, yeah, there's Diggs is a very good name right there.
Yeah, how do you view Diggs, and how do you sorry, we're veering off for a second, but like your view on Diggs and your scout's eye on Diggs and the occasional big play he gives up when he goes for it and he gets beat, is that worth it for everything else that he provides to you? How do you look at that?
I remember every time that I want to hate Diggs about something, I go back and watch the Cincinnati game when Cincinnati and that was we look back on it, that was actually a great win with Cooper Rush playing quarterback and the way that all went down. The defense did a hell of a job. The pressure. Diggs had a tackle on 3rd down on a crossing route, and Diggs had a tackle on 4th down on a crossing route.
Yep.
And I said to myself, I go, this guy is capable of playing that way. And then you watch him again in the San Francisco game, the George Kittle crazy, you've got to light Kittle up on that. You can't let Kittle catch that ball, on that crazy, when you miss tackles or you're trailing or you're not in position. It's crazy because you do see plays, and I'm telling you that Cincinnati game was back to back, 3rd down, 4th down, both crossing routes, and he was in position to tackle both times and kept got the defense off the field. 2 back-to-back plays. He's capable. I mean, he is absolutely capable of making plays like that every single down, but he doesn't always do it, and that's where sometimes you take the good with the bad with him, because that's what he'll do. Yeah,
that's a good. I agree with that. So we got 2 more of these questions on this game. Who is your dark horse MVP of this team?
The dark horse MVP of this team. Yeah,
dark horse. So obviously Dak is out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, to me, when you look at what needs to be done inside, and I'm saying we've seen, and this is on the defensive line, to me, I am a big fan of Tank Lawrence. And I think that like a dark horse, like a guy like, okay, they can't run the ball over here because they've got Hankins, they got Van Der Esch, but look who's setting the edge. Look at it. Might not be the numbers. It might not be the sack numbers. It's not going to be Micah Parsons numbers. It's just not. But he is very much to me like what Tyron Crawford used to be. And Tyron Crawford was a guy that he made a lot of money but he did a lot of the dirty work. And you know what? I used to tell people, I go, it's not his fault how much they paid him. It's not his fault. It's the organization. And I kind of feel the same way with when you watch, there's going to be a game where Tank Lawrence is going to knife down inside and make a play. It's going to split the guard tackle, and he's going to make a tackle for loss, and it's going to be a turnover. It's going to be on downs, or it's going to get him off the field. And I feel like that in this game, especially with as bad as the Giants, and the Giants are struggling at guard right now. They're in a kind of a rookie center, the guards, they're kind of playing a game of shuffle around and figure it out. Watch Lawrence playing in the nickel at playing the 3 technique with him and Osa. Yeah. He's going to find a way to be disruptive. And I've always had the utmost respect to him because the numbers, sure. Should they be big sack numbers? Sure. He's put up big sack numbers in his life. But he's also plays the run as well as any defensive end that you see in the league. Yeah. Because he's got that ability to jump a snap, to jump a block, to break a guy down. At big moments in games, he shows up.
He did that exact thing in Houston last year.
Yeah, exactly.
And he saved the game.
He did save the game. Yeah, those are the kinds of he's kind of a like you say, the MVP, because you're going to look up and he's going to have 4 tackles and 3 of them are going to be ones you're going to go like, oh, third down. Oh, third down. Oh, wait, he got a pressure on that one. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the type of guy you need. Yeah.
Cam, you got a dark horse MVP?
So
that smirk kind of tells me I think I might know who it is.
you knew I was going to have to mention his name. It's
Fair.
LVE. It's Van Der Esch. I feel like that, this is a team that we've had problems with the run, and I feel like he's going to be able to perform there in the middle, and he's going to have that. Just the way that I saw him at camp, we know Dak threw that ball to him and he never saw him, but Leighton was right there to get it.
Those are the interceptions you should worry about for Dak.
Right. I look at plays last year, like everybody was all like, oh, Micah recovered that fumble and he ran it in for a touchdown. Well, guess who caused that fumble?
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be kind of that unsung hero again this year. So it's LVE.
Yeah. My guy is Jaron Curse. The reason why I say Curse is because I think with Diggs and Gilly, people are going to be relying on their tight ends a lot more. And historically, the Cowboys have really struggled to guard tight ends in the past. 2001, they did a great job because Curse. Last year, it wasn't so great. Curse was banged up a lot in season. He had a lot of injuries, kept going in and out of games. Healthy Curse, helping shut down those tight ends and covering those tight ends and just playing that hybrid safety linebacker role. I think that's my guy. I think Curse can fill that role.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, he is a Curse. The one thing that you can trust about Dan Quinn is, and this staff on the defensive side, whatever players you give them, they will find a way to use them. And that's why I go back to Overshown. That I think that they lost a really a guy that they had a vision once they got him in camp, like, man, we can do some things with this guy. But Van Der Esch is outstanding. Curse is outstanding. Those guys all are going to be big parts of what they do defensively.
All right. Last one. Who is your under the radar guy that no one's really paying attention to that you think could make a little bit bigger of an impact than people are realizing right now?
Everybody's focusing right now on who's going to back up Pollard at running back. And I know we talked about him earlier, but this could be Rico Dowdle. I mean, Vaughn, everybody's got Vaughn. Everybody is clamoring to well, it's Pollard. Put Pollard and Vaughn on the field at the same time. And there's nothing wrong with Deuce Vaughn. There's not, because you watch him play at Kansas State. He got stronger every year. He got more yards every year. He was, he's a special player. There's no doubt about that. But you also, there's certain things you can do with him and you can't do with him. But to me, Rico Dowdle, if all of a sudden Pollard starts getting banged up, and maybe Ronald Jones, maybe that's where this thing could very well be, to the 2-game suspension. If they kind of figure out that, well, we need a bigger guy, maybe Ronald Jones is that guy for at least for the 2 games. But Rico Dowdle is going to have to be that guy. He is going to have to be the special teams player. He might have to be the short yardage back. He might have to be the 3rd down protector, blocking for blitz pickup stuff. So he's got a lot of roles that he has to. And like I say, if Pollard starts getting banged up and he doesn't look as quick and it's tougher for him, somebody's going to have to step up there. And it could very well be Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, I've liked Dowdle in his game for a couple of years.
He's hurt though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And if he gets hurt, then this is all a big moot point. But that's kind of where I'm at there.
Yeah, Cam, you got a under the radar guy?
I guess probably Bland right now at this point because everybody's speculating if it's
him or Jordan Lewis, right?
Yeah.
See, I'll tell you another one.
Jordan Lewis and
I thought you were going to say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say like a guy that I've absolutely buried, but he might show up is Malik Hooker.
See, that was my one.
No. I'm giving you that one. I'm giving you that Malik Hooker to me. I've buried.
And that's why I kind of hesitated.
I've buried Malik Hooker. I really have. Right. There's been time. I mean, he was dealing with the thumbs problem. He had to get surgery. Does he cover well all the time? I mean, when he was coming out of Ohio State, I thought he was one of the best free safeties I'd ever seen. And seriously, I mean, the range, the way he played the ball in the air and all that, and then the Achilles thing. I mean, it's taken him some time to kind of get back. And Cam, I'll let you finish. But me personally, I know that I have just completely buried him. But he might be a guy that shows up, plays well, and then everybody in Cowboy Nation will remind me like, oh, no, Broaddus, you wanted to replace him. That's fine. I kind of felt like that, well, let's see. Let's see him. Let's see how it plays out. But in a way, people might be right. The Cowboys might be right. He might be that guy that's kind of the under-the-radar, sneaky kind of guy that shows up and starts making plays for you.
Yeah.
I think this is the first place that we disagree, Brian. I'm a big Hooker fan. I really like Hooker. I think he can play both ways. Play in the box a little bit. Cover. He's had injuries, and that's really has drained him of what he was coming into the league. But I do like him. But Cam, go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, I'm just saying that's why I hesitated because I had sat there and I was like, okay, I'm going to say Malik Hooker. And then I was like, well, is he buried? I second guessed myself. But on the point with Bland, everybody's like speculating about Jordan Lewis coming back and is he going to be there and what are they going to do with Bland? But it'd be either one of those two.
My under the radar guy was a guy that Brian's already mentioned earlier in the question and that's Damone Clark. And the reason why I'm calling him under the radar is just because, he had that injury. He fell from a high draft value guy to the 5th round in the Cowboys. And outside of Cowboys Nation, I really don't think that he's really looked at as anything. And I think that, hey, this is a guy who's going to show the NFL and the football world like, hey, I'm still that guy that should have been drafted high.
Right.
A couple years ago. I'm still that guy. And he's going to show that speed that he had, that incredible speed that he has. And, putting it all together in his second year, the fact that he even played last year it's amazing. Insane.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, completely insane. So I think that, having an actual NFL offseason under his belt now, I think that it's going to help. And then obviously having a better interior defensive line with Jonathan Hankins healthy, Mozzie Smith holding up those offensive linemen so they can't get to him. He can play fast and clean. I think that will help him even more.
It's a good name. Good name.
Cam, did you want to ask him your question?
Yeah. So just a kind of like a hypothetical. You are the GM of the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And what other move would you have done in free agency? So you've already done the Brandon Cooks, you've already done the Gilmore. What other, if you were allowed to get one more, do one more thing in free agency, what was it? What would you have done to improve this team that you feel is needed?
I'm trying to think in my stack if I had Mozzie Smith over some of these guards. I might have thought about, because to me in my mind, I wasn't going to go into free agency and sign one of these guards. I just wasn't going to do it. My gang of 7, my guys and gals that look at film every day that I talk to about certain players. What about this guy? What about that guy? And they're like, no, this guy, you could get 2 or 3 of these scouts to tell you, no, this guy can't play. And you can move on from that. And you're like, okay, well, this is what my gang of 7's saying. Because these are the guys and gals that watch tape every day. So they know what's going on. So, but to me, I would have looked at the situation at, I think that I had Mozzie as like my 36th, 37th best player on my board at the time. I was trying to think about, and I need to go back and look at this, but the guards, I might have drafted one because my plan again was to move on probably from Tyron Smith, probably, to move on. And so I was going to keep Tyler Smith at left tackle and then figure out what was going on at guard. Figure out if I had to draft somebody or, find somebody, find a center that's a guard, that kind of thing. But, I've had, there's friends of mine that I've talked to, that I talk to every day, that love the team. And they're always asking me, and this goes all the way back to the draft. And they're like, why don't they address the guard situation? Why don't they address the guard? Why don't they address the guard? I mean, that's a question I got every single day from this buddy of mine. And he's not wrong, because you're kind of in a situation right now. I just feel like that Tyler Smith, as much as we all love Tyron Smith, we're just waiting for and I hate to even do this. You're just waiting for, like when it was the ankle got rolled or whatever, and he was on the injury report, we were all like, well, okay, man, we knew this, pat yourself on the back. We knew this kind of a bit. But I think I would have tried to maybe, instead of the defensive tackle, and this is rare for this team because they used draft capital to go get 2 players, and they drafted a 1 technique. That is a big change from what we've done here in the past. Mm-hmm. So, right. But I think that I would have looked at the offensive line again, because they've proven when they get a plug and play guy that in the first round, especially down where they're picking, would have been like a 2nd round grade. Yeah. They plug and play guys, Travis Frederick and Tyler Smith. I mean, they find ways to, these guys work out great for them. But I think if I was a GM, I would have tried to find a way to keep Tyler Smith at left tackle is what I would have done.
Yeah, my guy in the draft was Steve Avila. I really liked him. Yeah. That's who I wanted.
Big physical guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me throw something at you, a curveball real quick.
What would you guys have done? What you guys would have done?
Oh, so well, this.
What would you have done? What would you have done if you were the GM?
I would have signed D Hopkins.
Okay.
I would have signed D Hopkins, and it sounds like he just came out and said that he called the Cowboys and they wouldn't return his call. That kind of surprises me.
There was a lot of things going on there.
I heard there was a lot of back.
No, there's a lot of things going on there, and Hopkins he's a hell of a player. He really is. I mean, he catches everything. He's a quarterback friendly guy the way he catches the ball, but there's so much going on there that I don't think they
didn't want to touch it.
No.
Yeah. Cam, what do you think?
Oh, I definitely would have been a player in free agency for somewhere on that left side of the offensive line. I've said it, and I don't know how many of our shows that to me, to this day, that's our weak link right now on this team. I think we've got one of the most complete teams we've seen in a while. And the offensive line is the one that scares me the most.
Let me throw this at you, Brian.
your listeners are wanting me to spill tea on this guy.
Yeah.
One day, I'll tell you what. When I'm gone from this world, maybe I'll have a book and I'll just publish it when I'm gone from this world. But no, there's just a lot of things going on there, and he's a hell of a player. I know people are going to take this, say, But there's certain things about some of these players that people just say, we can't do this. We can't do that. And, maybe some of it had to do with too is he didn't practice. The guy does not practice at all. That's something that he's always dealing with some injuries and stuff, and he's just never completely healthy. And they went through that with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper doesn't never practice fully, and Amari was always dealing with something, but he always played. Mm-hmm. And these coaches, they want guys, especially at the receiver skill position, you got to practice, because remember what happened in the Philadelphia game several years ago with Amari Cooper, and he was on the sidelines. And they asked him after the game, Amari, why would you play? And he goes, coach's decision. Well, it's because you didn't practice, and they're down there in the red zone, and they're trying to do stuff that you didn't practice. They're asking him to, they're trying to run plays that you hadn't worked or you hadn't repped. So there's something to this about your availability, and I think that's one of the things that, that kind of bother the Cowboys a little bit. Among other things.
I would have tried to gone and gotten Buda Baker, because he's just free Buda Baker from that awful team. I mean,
Simmons,
such a homer. Who else you want us to get?
You.
Yeah.
I would have gone and got Isaiah Simmons from them too, especially for what the Giants got for him.
You know what? I was trying to ask somebody at the Giants about him, and we actually had Kim Jones on from Newsday. She used to be on the NFL Network. We had her on, and she was like, I go, what do you think they're going to do with him? And she's like, I don't know, but that's the thing with Martindale, with Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator. The good coaches figure out ways. Look at Dan Quinn. Look, you just get him a player, and they will figure out something for him to do in the game. They will figure something out, is what they'll do. Yeah.
So speaking of Arizona and their fire sale, we're not associated with the Cowboys. We can talk about other teams and other players. So
wait a minute. I work for DallasCowboys.com.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Just Will Hernandez. We're talking about guard filling that left side.
Sure.
Is that someone I know? Remember from the draft when he was?
Oh no,
you
UTEP.
were a big fan of him.
I absolutely loved the guy. How physically he was.
He's got some nasty streaks in him.
Sure does.
And he's got some bad blood with the Cowboys when he was with the Giants. Some run-ins. But that's somebody that I would think like, hey, they're having a fire sale down there. Let me call over there and say,
yeah,
hey, what's Hernandez doing? Are you guys willing to move that guy?
Yeah. I'm like a DallasCowboys.com guy, so I got to be careful. They'll say, Cowboys scout, former Cowboys scout says, and next thing then Derek Eagleton goes, hey, Brian, I'm sorry, we can't have you on the break anymore. So I fully respect what you're saying there. Yes. And I think all options are available as far as, this pro department's done a really good job. They have done a really, really good job with that. So I think that to me, it's, I'm going to trust, like I say, that if I was a GM, I would have looked at that guard spot. I might have looked at it through the draft, though, is what I would have done. But because I'm not getting the feeling that anybody on the street, and that even includes Jason Peters, I don't think they want to.
Do you think he's a safety net at this point, or is he?
I think Jason Peters could probably play 2 games, and that would be it. I think if you had to play 2 games, I think Jason Peters could do that. But beyond that, it was starting to be the end for him. I think a lot of people see that right now.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think that a lot of people did see him as kind of that safety net, like Cam was saying. Like, we can always go back and get him. That's not the case.
I think that's as they say, maybe some water under the bridge. Yeah, I think so.
Let me ask you about this Giants game. Do you have a big concern about the amount of times that Wink's going to blitz? Because he seems like to be the blitz king.
Yeah, and you got to figure it out, though, if you're one of those people that believe in metrics, that Dak Prescott's one of the best in the league when it comes to dealing with blitzes. Mm-hmm. Now, can Adoga and can Broaddus and these guys all pick up blitzes? I think there's going to be times where they're probably not. Maybe Dak has to get rid of it. Maybe doesn't get hit. But if he can make them pay, I mean, Wink has got to do something, because he's with Adoree Jackson is going to play in the slot. and he's got the two young kids playing on the outside, the two rookies. Adorie's going to be the star. When they just go base, it's Banks and Adoree Jackson. And then when they go nickel, then again, the two rookies, are involved with Adoree playing in the slot. So I think that it depends. If their guys are getting eaten up on the outside, then I could see him blitzing. And then now it turns into, can you find a way to get to Pollard the ball on a swing? Can you get him a screen? Can you get him something to keep them from blitzing you? But if you don't, if you show that all of a sudden Dak starts getting hit and then they're getting off the field, he will turn up the pressure even more. So you have to be able to handle it. You have to get them out of blitzing you the first 2 or 3 times that he does it.
So just going into this game, we haven't seen Steele in a while. I mean, we haven't seen him game ready in a while. And I know we talked about the preseason a little bit more, but with his injury and everything from what you've seen and what you've heard, he's 100% game ready, and they think there's no issue with him.
None at all.
There's going to be no hesitation with him.
None at all.
That's great to hear.
Yep, ready to go.
Yeah,
he and Britt Brown, the associate athletic trainer, they did a great job. Duke Manyweather did a great job with him. There's a lot of people in his corner that he's just a great kid. And so he worked extremely hard to get back, and I haven't heard one bit of hesitation about any thoughts about him not playing at a quality level.
Oh yeah. And I'm sorry to get just a little bit off topic, but I want to know your opinion on Thursday night's game. The discussion of the false start and lining up back too far back. What are your thoughts on
John
that?
Hussey's crew is a disaster. Okay, I'll go on record as saying that. John Hussey is, matter of fact, Adrian Hill is your official in this game. Adrian Hill's an interesting guy because he's called 7 roughing the passer penalties in the 17 games that he worked. He worked 16 games last year. 7. So, you got to be careful about that. You can't allow these, Hutchinson's trying to rush and he's literally having to run even further, because of the alignment. But John, that's the league. It's a shame that in week 1 and it happened in front of a national world audience, but you cannot, your head has to be at the midpoint of the guy next to you. That clearly wasn't. They were playing in that game in Kansas City, and that tackle was lined up in friggin', St. Louis. That's how deep he was back, So yeah, that's a shame right there.
And so I think a lot of people, like everybody, was really agreeing with the alignment. Like he was really,
especially if they did it to Micah. If they played Micah like that, we'd be losing our minds right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the biggest discussion is, and what's going on, and what Duke is fighting on Twitter and everything, is the false start and was he moving early? Was his leg moving too much? Where are your thoughts on that? Do you have?
Man, some of these guys are really good jumping counts. And you just when you break it, when you get the all 22, you could see balls moving, leg moving. I had more problem with the alignment than I did anything, because they're, like I say, that's a little bit of a different. If Kansas City's playing that game on the road, you might not get away with, but man, these home games like that, these guys have vision. They know how to kick it and get back. I just, like I say, the alignment was the biggest problem that I had.
Oh yeah, the alignment was really bad. Like
really
he was
bad.
lining up behind the guy, almost like it was.
Yeah, where you're supposed to be, like I say, with your head and all that. I don't think that was a good spot.
And do you think that's on coaching of hey, look at where they're lining up? Hey,
maybe they know that John Hussey's crew is not going to call that crap.
Okay.
That's and some of the things we did back in the day when I was with Parcells, we broke down each one of these officials. I know now what Adrian Hill is going to do in this game. Adrian Hill reffed your game last year against the Lions, 15 penalties. You could go back and you chart these guys. You chart them and you know what their crews are calling. they calling illegal contacts? Are they calling illegal motions? Are they calling, what are they calling? Mainly the penalties you want to know are the ones that are like offensive pass interference, defensive pass interference, defensive holding, illegal contact, hands to the face. You want to know what penalties they're calling so you can tell your guys, listen, you get your hands up on these blockers, we're going to get calls. They've called, in 7 games, they've called 5 hands to the face penalty. That's something, you should know that. And I think Mike and the staff do a good job of kind of putting that together.
Awesome. That's a great breakdown. I've looked at those reports before on seeing what they call, like how many flags they throw, but I never really looked at it and broke it down by what they were calling.
Oh no, you know going into a game, if you're a special teams coach, you know that they call block in the back, or you know that they call sideline, going out of bounds and coming back in, not going direct pass. And no, you know it. You tell your team, like there's officials that will let you play. There's a lot of officials that will let you play. And then there's some, like what we saw with Sean Hockley in that game against the Raiders that was an absolute joke on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh man.
But that's, some of these officials are a little much, and there's others that will just, will let you play.
Well, I know you have a whole nother show to record.
I do.
And so
I do.
Let's end this with score predictions.
Oh.
Yeah, on DallasCowboys.com, I think I went 26-24. I said that Dallas will win the game 26-24. I kind of feel like that Dallas will have to, and it's not go kick a field goal to win the game. I think Dallas will have to play 4-minute offense to try and keep the ball and then run this thing out. Might be a little high on the score because of, maybe with the offensive line situation, stuff like that, but I'll stick with it. 26-24 Dallas. Again, 4-minute offense at the end of the game to run that thing out, to win it. You guys got predictions? What are we doing with you guys?
Yeah, I got it 31-17 Cowboys.
There you go.
I don't think there's going to be that much rust with Dak and moving with the offense. I think he's going to, CeeDee Lamb, I'm expecting a really big game from CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks, I think, brings a whole different element. We haven't really talked about him, but he brings a whole different element to this offense. He opens up that deep pass. Hopefully Michael Gallup gets back to where he was, like we were talking about, and he has that he can break out that deep pass as well. So, and I've already expressed my love for Jake Ferguson. So
there you go. First touchdown scored will be Jake Ferguson.
There we go. There we go. Jake and Bake. There we go. So I think the offense has a good game. Defense, I think this defense is going to be incredible. Doomsday defense type.
There you go.
For this season. So 31-17 for me.
Like it.
I have 27. What I have it written down. Sorry, because I had a whole theory behind this. I have 27-13. And my first touchdown is to Cooks.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a long bomb to Brandon Cooks. I have a little hesitation because of this weather report that we're seeing about it.
Yeah.
And we may not see as many caught balls, and it may be more of a ground game, but I'm going to stay with that.
There you go. Like it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah, we
guys
super appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll ask you back at some point in time. And for all of you that came and stopped by, we thank you so much for being with us. We're figuring out our schedule because I'm currently on vacation for next week, but we will let you all know. And as always, like, hit, and subscribe. We thank you all for being here, and go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.